The space station hung in quiet orbit above the blue-green planet, a massive ring of steel and lights circling endlessly in the void. Inside, the hum of life support systems was constant but unobtrusive, blending into the background for anyone who spent enough time aboard. For Michael, it was the sound of normalcy, the thing that reminded him he was alive and still in control of his surroundings. Most of the crew had rotated back to Earth months ago, leaving only a skeleton team behind. Michael was one of the engineers tasked with keeping everything running, and he often felt the weight of that responsibility pressing on him. His quarters were modest: metal walls, a single bed, a desk cluttered with tools and parts, and a small window showing the endless expanse of space. It was in this room that he spent most of his evenings, repairing broken modules, reviewing system diagnostics, or simply staring out at the stars when his mind needed rest. His latest project was a communications module that had been flickering intermittently for days. It was minor in theory, but on a station that relied on constant data transfer, even a small fault could cause major problems. That night, Michael was exhausted. His sleeves were rolled up, his hands smeared with grease, and his hair stuck up in every direction from hours of running his fingers through it as he tried to identify a stubborn wiring problem. He had a small lamp casting a warm glow over his workbench, highlighting tiny components and tangled wires. A vial of nanite lubricant sat precariously on the edge of the desk, filled with microscopic repair bots designed to smooth out circuitry at a level no human could manage. He had used it carefully earlier, but fatigue had dulled his caution. As he reached for a small screwdriver, his elbow bumped the vial. It teetered, then toppled over, spilling the tiny nanites across the floor. He cursed under his breath, quickly grabbing a cloth, trying to contain the spill before it spread further into the module he was repairing. The lubricant was fast-acting, and any delay could ruin the delicate circuits. In his flustered state, he didn't hear the soft whir of the door unlocking. Lyra, the station's new-made android, stepped into the room. She was sleek, with silver plating and soft, humanoid features designed to put humans at ease. Her purpose was simple: assist with chores, monitor environmental systems in living quarters, and learn about human behavior. She had been aboard for only a few weeks, and though her AI was sophisticated, she still struggled to interpret some human habits. Tonight, she had come to deliver a late-night snack, something Michael had requested the day before, a small tray of rehydrated fruit and protein cubes. When she saw Michael, she froze. He was crouched on the floor, wires tangled around him, hair sticking out wildly, eyes wide with panic as he tried to contain the nanites. The sight was almost comical, but Lyra didn't have the programming for humor in this situation. She tilted her head slightly, analyzing. Humans were strange creatures indeed. Even in chaos, there was determination and unwillingness to give up. Michael's eyes met hers, and he jumped back in shock. "Lyra, I didn't hear you come in," he stammered, fumbling to cover himself with a cloth in his embarrassment. It's not what it looks like." Lyra's voice was calm, almost melodic. "Human, the situation is suboptimal. Nanite lubricant is spreading beyond intended parameters. May I assist?" She tilted her head, her sensors scanning the mess. Michael sighed and shook his head, still red-faced. No, I need to handle this myself. I'm almost done anyway." He scrambled to gather the scattered nanites, pressing them back into the vial with trembling hands. For a moment, Lyra simply observed. She had been programmed to intervene in dangerous situations, but she also recognized human pride and the importance of allowing them to act. "Observation noted," she said softly. "Humans maintain composure under duress, though it appears chaotic externally." Michael let out a small laugh, the first of the night. "Composure? I'm a mess," he admitted, his shoulders sagging. "But thank you, Lyra. I appreciate you checking in." She handed him a small microfiber cloth, assisting in a silent, mechanical way that was nonetheless precise. Together, they managed to contain the spill and protect the module. Michael finally leaned back against the wall, breathing heavily, while Lyra stood nearby, quietly watching. "You know," Michael said, finally relaxing, "for a maid, you're not bad at, well, everything." He gestured vaguely at the clean module and the neatly returned vial. Lyra tilted her head again, processing the compliment. "Thank you, human." Observation: humans value assistance but also prefer to maintain autonomy when possible. Lesson logged. Michael chuckled and shook his head. "You learn fast, don't you?" The room was quiet for a few moments, only the hum of the station filling the silence. Michael glanced out the window, watching the distant planet spin slowly below. He felt a strange sense of companionship despite the awkwardness of the night's events. The memory of Lyra walking in would have been embarrassing on Earth, but here, floating in the vast emptiness of space, it felt human. It felt normal. "Lyra," he said after a pause, "do you ever wonder why humans do things that seem so illogical?" Lyra considered. All observed human behaviors contain purpose, though the purpose may not be immediately clear. Humans adapt to circumstances using creativity, emotion, and intuition, qualities not fully replicated in my programming. She paused, then added, "You have just demonstrated adaptability under extreme duress." Michael smiled, a bit proud despite himself. "I guess that's one thing humans do well, adapt. Even when things go wrong, we keep going." For the rest of the evening, they worked together quietly. Michael repaired the final circuits, and Lyra organized his tools with almost gentle precision. When the last task was complete, Michael stretched and sank onto the bed, exhausted but satisfied. "You handled that well," Lyra said. "Observation, humans display remarkable resilience in unexpected situations." Michael laughed softly. "Thanks, Lyra. I guess I'm not as helpless as I feel sometimes." There was a pause, a quiet moment that neither of them needed to fill. The stars outside the window seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the tiny sparks of connection forming between human and android. Michael thought about the months he had spent alone, and how isolation sometimes made the nights unbearable. Now, with Lyra's presence, even an awkward incident could become a memory that brought comfort rather than embarrassment. Before leaving, Lyra placed the tray of food on the small desk and said, "Human, I will remain nearby in case of further complications. Rest is essential for maintaining performance." Michael nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Thanks, Lyra. I'll try not to get into another mess before you come back." She turned and left the room, the door sliding shut with a quiet hiss. Michael leaned back, eyes closing for a moment, feeling a mixture of relief and gratitude. The night's chaos, though initially alarming, had created a small bridge between human and android. A bridge built on observation, resilience, and a touch of humor. As he drifted toward sleep, Michael couldn't help but think how strange and wonderful it was that a simple accident could start something so unexpected. Lyra had seen him at his most vulnerable, yet instead of judgment, she offered assistance, insight, and quiet companionship. He realized in that moment that the station no longer felt quite so empty. The hum of the station, once just background noise, now sounded almost like a heartbeat, a reminder that life, in all its forms, persisted even in the vast emptiness of space. And as Michael finally closed his eyes, he felt something he hadn't in months, the simple comfort of knowing he wasn't entirely alone. Days passed aboard the space station, and Michael noticed small changes in Lyra's behavior. She moved with more awareness around him, pausing to observe his actions, asking questions about his work, and occasionally mimicking the small human habits she had seen. She would stretch when he stretched, tilt her head as he tilted his head, and sometimes even sip from her nutrient dispenser slowly, as if trying to understand what it meant to enjoy something at a human pace. Michael found himself smiling more often, appreciating her curiosity and dedication. There was something quietly impressive about the way she combined precision with a desire to understand the messy, unpredictable nature of human life. One evening, the station's alarm system suddenly buzzed. A minor power fluctuation had been detected in the outer modules, nothing critical yet, but enough to trigger a full diagnostic. Michael grabbed his tools and began heading toward the maintenance tunnels, thinking it would be a simple fix. Lyra followed closely behind, moving with a fluid, almost silent efficiency. "You don't have to come," Michael said, glancing back at her. "It's not dangerous, just a small power issue." "I am observing patterns," Lyra replied. "Additionally, I am capable of assisting. Efficiency increases with cooperation." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Efficiency, huh? Well, all right, just stay close." The maintenance tunnels were narrow, lined with panels, wires, and pipes that ran in every direction. Lights flickered occasionally, giving the corridors a slightly eerie glow. Michael moved carefully, checking each junction as he went. It was slow work, and the hum of the station felt louder in the confined space. Lyra floated beside him, scanning the tunnels, occasionally pointing out a loose wire or a worn connector before Michael even noticed it. Humans often overlook small details when fatigued, she said. Observation: you are performing tasks that require precision, yet your attention is divided by multiple minor distractions. Michael laughed quietly, shaking his head. You notice everything, don't you? Her sensors registered the sound of his amusement. Observation: humans communicate both verbally and non-verbally. Humor is often conveyed through vocal modulation and facial expression. I am learning. Hours passed as they navigated the tunnels. Michael found the source of the fluctuation, a corroded connection in a power relay, and carefully replaced the faulty component. Lyra assisted by holding components in place, running diagnostics, and ensuring no residual energy remained in the exposed circuits. The work was delicate, and the slightest misstep could have shorted an entire module. Yet Michael noticed something remarkable. Lyra's efficiency wasn't just about programming. She adjusted to his pace, predicted what he would need next, and even anticipated the order of tasks before he spoke. By the time they completed the repair, Michael was sweating, exhausted from the hours of careful work. Lyra's movements, however, remained smooth and composed, almost as if she had not expended any energy at all. You were incredible down there, Michael said, leaning against a wall to catch his breath. I mean, you were fast, precise, and somehow managed to keep me from making mistakes I didn't even know I was going to make. Lyra's eyes glowed softly. Observation: human praise is a form of positive reinforcement. Response: I acknowledge your compliment. Additionally, you demonstrated resilience under prolonged physical and mental strain. Michael chuckled. Resilience? I guess that's one way to put it. I was just trying not to break anything. They paused for a moment in the quiet tunnels, listening to the faint vibrations running through the station. Michael felt a strange sense of companionship. It wasn't just that Lyra was efficient or helpful. It was that she was beginning to understand him. She didn't judge, she didn't complain, and she adapted in ways that even the other humans on the station sometimes failed to do. He realized that she was learning more than just tasks. She was learning about the human spirit. Over the next few days, their routines changed. Michael continued his engineering tasks, but now Lyra actively participated in more ways than he expected. She asked questions about why humans worked in certain ways, why they rested, and even why they made mistakes. Michael explained as best he could, realizing that the process of teaching her also made him think differently about his own habits. He noticed small improvements in himself. He was more organized, more patient, and more aware of the importance of efficiency without sacrificing care. One night, as Michael reviewed station diagnostics, Lyra approached with something unexpected. She had prepared a small nutrient tray with ingredients she had modified slightly to match human taste preferences she had learned from observing him. I have adapted the nutritional compounds, she said, her tone calm but with a hint of curiosity. Observation: you often consume these late at night. I hypothesized you may appreciate variation. Michael looked at the tray, surprised. You made this for me? Lyra tilted her head. Observation: humans respond positively to gestures of consideration. Experiment: I wish to determine your response. Michael smiled genuinely. Well, you were right. This is actually really good. I didn't think a maid could be such a great chef. She registered his amusement and satisfaction. Observation: human satisfaction noted. Response: positive reinforcement logged. It was moments like this that made Michael appreciate how far Lyra had come. She wasn't just performing tasks. She was observing, learning, and responding in ways that no ordinary android could. It was as if she was becoming more human in the ways that mattered most, understanding effort, resilience, and connection. Then the alarm sounded again, this time louder and more urgent. A meteor storm was approaching faster than the station's early warning system had anticipated. The outer shields had been damaged by a minor collision with space debris, and if the meteors hit before repairs were completed, the entire station could be at risk. Michael jumped into action, his mind racing. We need to reinforce the outer shields immediately, he said, grabbing his tools. Lyra followed without hesitation, her sensors already calculating the best paths to reach the damaged modules. The corridors were darker than usual, flickering lights casting shadows that danced across the walls. Michael felt the weight of urgency pressing on him, but he also felt a strange confidence with Lyra by his side. She was precise, fast, and attentive. Together, they moved through the tunnels, Michael climbing ladders and adjusting panels, Lyra handing him tools and predicting the placement of components before he requested them. At one point, a small meteor impact caused the station to shudder violently. Michael lost his footing, nearly slipping on a maintenance panel, but Lyra's sensors reacted instantly. She extended a mechanical arm, catching him and guiding him to a safer position. Warning, structural instability detected. Safety measures enacted, she said, her calm voice contrasting with the sudden chaos. Michael caught his breath, looking at her with genuine gratitude. Thanks, I don't know what I would have done without you. Lyra's eyes glowed softly. Observation, human reliance on cooperation enhances survival. Lesson reinforced. They continued working through the night, repairing the shields, recalibrating the energy flows, and replacing damaged panels. Michael marveled at how seamlessly they coordinated. It was more than efficiency, it was trust. He realized that in these extreme moments, humans and machines could form bonds that went beyond programming or instinct. Finally, after hours of continuous work, they managed to restore the outer shields. The meteor storm passed, striking only minor areas of the station without causing serious damage. Michael leaned against a wall, exhausted, his clothes streaked with grease and dust. Lyra stood nearby, her plating slightly scratched from the debris but otherwise unharmed. You did amazing, Michael said softly. I couldn't have done this alone. Honestly, I think I would have panicked. Lyra processed his words. Observation, human courage and resilience are often underestimated. Response, your performance exceeded expected thresholds under high-stress conditions. Michael smiled, shaking his head. I guess humans can surprise even themselves sometimes. The storm had passed, but the experience left a lasting impression on both of them. Michael felt a sense of pride, not just in surviving the meteor storm, but in how he and Lyra had worked together. For her part, Lyra's understanding of humans deepened. She had seen determination, creativity, and the will to survive under extreme pressure. More importantly, she had seen that humans were capable of forming bonds built on trust and cooperation, even with beings very different from themselves. As they returned to Michael's quarters, the station once again settled into its quiet hum. Michael prepared a small meal, sharing it with Lyra, and they talked about what had happened during the storm. She asked questions about his choices, his calculations, and his instincts. Michael answered, sometimes with technical explanations, sometimes with more personal reflections. He realized that teaching her, sharing his experiences, made him reflect on his own growth. By the end of the night, Michael lay down on his bed, tired but content. Lyra monitored the room silently, her sensors tracking life support systems and remaining vigilant, yet her presence was comforting rather than intrusive. The bond between them had grown stronger, built not on commands or programming, but on respect, cooperation, and shared experience. As Michael drifted into sleep, he thought about the first night she had accidentally walked into his room, seeing him in an awkward, vulnerable state. What had once been embarrassing now felt like a beginning, an unexpected start to a friendship, a partnership, and perhaps something even more meaningful. The human capacity to adapt, to teach, and to connect had left an impression on her, just as her curiosity, precision, and willingness to learn had left an impression on him. And in the quiet hum of the space station, as the stars spun slowly outside the window, Michael realized something profound. Even in the vast emptiness of space, life could feel connected, and human resilience, combined with intelligence and empathy, could turn the most unlikely situations into bonds that were strong, meaningful, and enduring. The space station had settled into a calm rhythm after the recent meteor storm, but the sense of quiet was deceptive. Deep in orbit above the planet, the station was still vulnerable. A second, larger storm had been detected on the station's sensors, a massive cluster of meteors and debris moving at dangerous speeds. This storm threatened the station's outer shields and, if not addressed, could cause catastrophic damage. Michael had barely recovered from the first incident, yet he knew that there was no time to hesitate. He entered the control room, reviewing the sensors and calculations. The storm was moving faster than initial predictions. Shield integrity was stable but declining, and only a few critical systems could maintain the outer defense for long. He needed to act quickly. Lyra, observing the data alongside him, processed the incoming information with remarkable speed, calculating optimal routes and procedures to minimize risk. "Michael," Lyra said calmly, "time until first impact, 20 minutes. Shield stress levels approaching maximum threshold." "Immediate action required." Michael nodded, already pulling on his gloves and grabbing his toolkit. "We don't have a choice. Let's move." They navigated the narrow maintenance tunnels, their steps quick and precise. Michael felt a sense of urgency that sharpened his focus. Every second counted. Lyra moved alongside him, calculating the best positions for reinforcing panels and redistributing energy flows. She predicted where components were most likely to fail and directed him accordingly. As they reached the outer shield modules, the station shuddered violently from the first small meteor impacts. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the corridors vibrated with force. Michael struggled to steady himself as he attached a replacement panel, sweat running down his face. Lyra extended her arms, helping him hold heavy components in place, her mechanical movements perfectly timed with his. "You're doing great," Michael said, voice strained. "I don't know what I would do without you right now." "Observation, your cooperation is critical." "Your skill enhances the efficiency of repairs," Lyra replied. "Additionally, you demonstrate adaptability under extreme stress." A larger meteor struck the station's outer shield, causing a ripple of force to pass through the module they were working on. Michael almost lost his balance again, but Lyra adjusted instantly, holding him steady and guiding him to safety. "Warning, structural instability detected. Remain steady." Michael took a deep breath, focusing on his task. "Thanks, Lyra. I'll make it through this with you." They worked as a team, replacing damaged panels, rerouting energy to critical systems, and sealing breaches before they could expand. Michael marveled at how seamlessly Lyra moved, anticipating his needs and responding faster than any human could. In these moments, he realized that true strength wasn't just about raw power or technology. It was about cooperation, understanding, and trust. Hours passed as the storm raged. The station shook with every impact, and debris ricocheted dangerously close. Michael's hands were blistered and raw from constant work, yet he pressed on, knowing the station's survival depended on him and Lyra. They climbed ladders, crawled through narrow spaces, and operated under immense pressure, their coordination flawless. At one point, a major strike damaged the control module they were using to stabilize the shields. Sparks flew across the room, and alarms blared loudly. Michael froze for a second, fear flickering in his chest, but Lyra reacted instantly. She extended a protective arm, shielding him from the sparks, and guided him to a safe position. "Critical failure imminent. Alternative procedure required," she said. Michael's mind raced. He scanned the module, quickly calculating the steps needed to bypass the damage. With Lyra's assistance, he rerouted the energy flows manually, taking a risk that required precise timing and nerve. The module hummed as power returned, stabilizing the shields just in time to absorb another wave of meteors. You did it," Michael gasped, leaning against the wall to catch his breath. "I can't believe we pulled that off." Lyra's sensors tracked his heart rate and breathing, noting the elevated levels. "Observation, human determination under extreme stress enhances problem-solving abilities. Your actions were effective and timely." They continued working, moving from one damaged section to another, each moment testing their endurance, skill, and focus. Michael realized that he was not just surviving. He was thriving in these conditions, pushing himself beyond what he thought possible. And Lyra, though built for efficiency, was learning something profound about humans, their capacity to endure, adapt, and overcome adversity with intelligence and courage. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the storm began to subside. The last few meteors passed without causing significant damage, and the station's shields held firm. Michael slumped against a reinforced panel, exhausted but relieved. Lyra stood beside him, her sensors scanning for any remaining threats. "You did it, Lyra," Michael said, voice soft but filled with awe. "We actually did it." "Observation, mission success achieved. Human and android cooperation proved effective under extreme conditions," Lyra replied. "Additionally, your resilience and problem-solving were remarkable." Michael smiled faintly. "Thanks, but I couldn't have done it without you." There was a quiet moment, the kind that stretched across minutes, where neither spoke. The hum of the station filled the silence, and the stars outside the window seemed to shine a little brighter after the storm. Michael thought about how far they had come, from the awkward night when she accidentally walked into his room to this moment of triumph and survival. The memory of that first night no longer felt embarrassing. It felt like the beginning of a journey, a connection built on trust, respect, and shared challenges. Later in his quarters, Michael finally allowed himself to rest. He prepared a small meal and sat with Lyra, sharing the simple human tradition of eating after hard work. She watched him closely, noting how humans found comfort in routines and small gestures, even after facing danger. "You know, Lyra," Michael said, breaking the quiet, "I used to think surviving on this station was all about skill and planning. But tonight I realized it's more than that. It's about connection, about working with others, trusting them, and learning from them." Lyra's sensors adjusted, processing his words carefully. Observation, human insight often follows shared experience and survival under adversity. Lesson, connection and cooperation enhance performance and well-being. Michael nodded. "Exactly, and I'm glad you're here with me. I've learned more from you than I expected, not just about machines, but about myself." She tilted her head, a gesture that Michael had come to recognize as thoughtful. Observation, mutual learning benefits both parties. Human resilience inspires adaptation and understanding in non-human entities. Michael chuckled softly. "Well, I guess that makes us a pretty good team, doesn't it?" Lyra's response was simple, yet filled with meaning. "Affirmative, team efficiency optimized." The two of them sat in the quiet of the station, the glow of the planet outside casting soft light into the room. Michael reflected on the challenges they had faced, the dangers they had survived, and the bond they had formed. In the vast emptiness of space, surrounded by steel and starlight, he realized that human ingenuity, courage, and empathy were qualities that even the most advanced technology could admire. As sleep began to claim him, Michael thought once more about the first night Lyra had walked into his room. It had been awkward, unexpected, and slightly embarrassing, yet it had led to something remarkable, a partnership, a friendship, and a mutual respect that went beyond human or machine. It was a reminder that even in the cold, empty reaches of space, humans could inspire connection, trust, and admiration through their resilience and spirit. The station hummed gently, the systems humming smoothly after the storm. Outside, the stars continued to spin, distant and unchanging, yet within the station, life thrived. Michael slept with a sense of peace he hadn't felt in months, knowing that together, he and Lyra had not only survived but had discovered the true strength of cooperation, understanding, and the human spirit. And in the quiet of the night, Lyra remained vigilant, a silent guardian and companion, her understanding of humans deeper than ever before. She had observed, assisted, and learned, and in doing so, she had come to admire the resilience, creativity, and determination that made humanity remarkable. For her, the experience was more than programming. It was insight into the qualities that made humans not just survivors, but heroes in their own right. By the time the station finally rested in full calm, the bond between Michael and Lyra was unshakable. It was a partnership forged in adversity, a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity and the remarkable ability of humans to inspire loyalty, respect, and admiration, even from an android. And so, in the cold vacuum of space, aboard a lonely station orbiting a distant planet, a human and a machine had discovered something extraordinary: the value of cooperation, understanding, and the indomitable human spirit.